offertory. Good morning. I'm Reverend Michelle Scott Huffman. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the minister here at First UU. If you are wondering what everyone's doing with these fun hats on, we're celebrating the play theme for this month, and we just decided that it would be a fun way to spice up our Zoom space. So if you missed that message in What's Up and on Facebook, I would invite you to stay tuned for what other ways we will play throughout the month of June during our Sunday services, or you can feel free to bring your own creative play in whatever way you want. Last week, I made myself attend a social event. It was an actual event where people, vaccinated people of course, but still people in the flesh, sat around a table and ate food together. That in itself was a novel thing to do. But it was even more than that. I arrived late since I had a meeting at the same time that the event was to begin. And when I got there, most of the attendees were just finishing up their dinner. And they had started a game of 2 truths and a lie. Now, I hadn't sat down yet, and it's possible that I could have made up some excuse to get myself out of there, but I decided to stay. The next thing I knew, I had laughed so hard I cried, and Stephanie was texting me to ask when I was coming home. I'd been there for 2.5 hours, and we were having such a good time that the time just flew by. According to those who study play for a living, and there are people who do that, active play has a timeless quality to it. One of the things that we laughed extra hard about was the banter that was sprinkled throughout the rest of the night's conversation after one person, try as she might, couldn't manage to tell a lie. She kept coming up with 3 things that were somehow true. And another admitted in her 2 truths that she had never been saved in the evangelical Christian sense. I should add that this dinner table was filled mostly with Christian clergy, many of whom had spent some time in evangelicalism, and a few who were always in the mainline church and for whom getting saved just wasn't a thing. So there was much energy and laughter around this conversation. So as I prepared a sermon for this week, I guess I was a little extra attuned to the word saved in a quote by Stuart Brown regarding the importance of play in our lives. Dr. Stuart Brown is a medical doctor, a psychiatrist, and founder of the National Institute for Play, and author of Play, How It Shapes the Brain, Opens the Imagination, and Invigorates the Soul. Brown writes, "I don't think it is too much to say that play can save your life. It certainly has salvaged mine. Life without play is grinding, mechanical existence, organized around doing the things necessary for survival. Play is the stick that stirs the drink. It is the basis of all art, games, books, sports, movies, fashion, fun, and wonder. In short, the basis of what we think of as civilization. Play is the vital essence of life. It is what makes life lively." Earlier this week, in the midst of much stress and many looming deadlines, taking some time out to play saved me. For just a couple of hours, I was doing a thing that had no purpose outside of itself, and it was glorious. Now, some of you have been making time for this kind of activity for years, so I'm not telling you anything new. But if that's you, we need your help. You see, some of us have lost touch with the importance of play in our lives and in our communities. To be honest, some of us may have never been great at playing to begin with. Some conversations I've already had this month indicate that there may be a concentration of people who struggle with play and purposelessness here in the UU Church. In my own childhood and adolescence, I was pretty good at playing if there was a ball involved, but otherwise not so great. I never had a great imagination for make-believe play, although I did play communion with tiny squares of Wonder Bread and cups of sweet tea, serving my best friend Kendra and practicing words that one says before everyone partakes, which I now know to be the words of institution. It's interesting to me now that I would play communion as a child growing up in a Southern Baptist church, where we may have observed communion quarterly, and in many ways it felt tangential to the thing that we were actually there to do. I didn't even remember playing communion until I was about to be ordained as a minister in the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, where communion is the central element of the worship service every week. Brown says, if you just observe children and don't try and direct them and watch what they like to do and play, you often will see a key to their innate talents. And if those talents are given fairly free rein, then you see that there's a union between self and talent. And that this is nature's way of sort of saying, this is who you are and what you are. And I'm sure if you go back and think about your children or yourself and go back to your earliest emotion-laden visual and visceral memories of what really gave you joy, you'll have some sense of what was natural for you and where your talents lie. So perhaps it won't surprise you to know that in my early teenage years, the way that I engaged in play with another of my best friends was to peruse the 1977 World Book Encyclopedia for articles of interest and then to write reports on the topics and share them with one another. It was called the Smart Club, and we were the only 2 members. And let me tell you, we were a barrel of fun. Even so, we were playing in our own way, according to Brown's 7 properties of play, which are purposelessness, or rather apparent purposelessness, as Brown refers to it. Apparent purposelessness reflects the absence of practical value in an activity. It may not necessarily earn money or bring about material advantage. It is just done for the sake of itself. Play is voluntary. It has no obligatory aspect. It doesn't force us to take part through duty or external requirement, although I did feel a little bit of a duty the other night to attend that dinner. In fact, through obligation, the activity loses its play component. Play has inherent attraction. It's fun. It makes us feel good. From a behavioral science perspective, it is said to bring about psychological arousal. In other words, it gets us excited and is a cure for boredom. Play is free from time. When we're playing, we lose track of time. It is freedom in its truest sense and provides an escape from the constrained world of demands and commitments. Play is diminished self-consciousness. When we're playing, we drop the need to look good. There's no concern about what others think of us. There's no thought about thought, and we become lost in the activity. It's what Maslow referred to as peak experience. Play has improvisational potential. There's no specific system of doing things. Instead, we're open to serendipity and chance occurrences that can lead to creativity and discovery of new things. And play has a continuation desire. In play, we desire for its continuation and will invent new means to make it last. It is the pleasure of the experience that drives the desire, and from this, we make new rules so the game need not end. We just experienced this when we were on vacation. We were playing a card game and it ended too quickly when someone went out. So we created new rules on the fly so that we can continue playing the game and it wouldn't end right there. Brown says that it's these properties of play that make play the essence of freedom, makes it its own reward and inherently enjoyable. And Dutch historian and cultural theorist Johan Huizinga also wrote about the importance of play in culture and society in the mid-20th century. And Huizinga wrote, in play, we move below the level of the serious as the child does, but we can also move above it in the realm of the beautiful and the sacred. And that's where play as a theme in this UU church comes in. We gather together in search of wholeness in an effort to recognize and honor what is beautiful and sacred in us and around us, and to invite others to notice the beautiful and sacred as well. We gather to be a peacemaking, justice-building, people, creature, and earth-loving community. And in order to do that well, we need to tend to our own well-being and open the well of creativity and imagination that exists in all of us. Brown writes that the evidence from play science demonstrates that all of us, children and adults, have untapped play-based resources that are there for us to access, which exist in us despite the many ongoing difficult circumstances. These play reservoirs which have been provided for us by nature, have persisted through past difficulty and varied historic situations: famine, disease, natural disaster, political upheaval, war. By embracing them, they keep us upbeat and positive and resilient. And when examining the lives of non-players, comparing them to play-fulfilled individuals, research has shown that play itself contributes to getting along better with ourselves, and certainly provides the tools to better get along non-violently, cooperatively, and innovatively with each other. As a side note, Stuart Brown began his study of play quite accidentally while doing research on homicidal males who were all discovered to have had severe lifelong play deficits. Due to this research and decades of research afterward, Brown upholds the conclusion that fostering the playful side of human nature promotes nonviolent, pro-social behavior. So that's another way we might be saved by play. It is a necessary ingredient for individual and communal balance. Beyond enabling us to better deal with individual and social requirements, it provides us with adaptive flexibilities and openness to explore the unexpected. Play is there to prepare us to better live our lives. But the prevailing way of seeing play is that it's necessary for kids, but very elective for responsible adults. This month, we challenge that assumption, and we invite and even encourage everyone to get in touch with our playful sides. Brown suggests that we all have a particular play personality, which include the joker, the kinesthete, the explorer, the competitor, director, collector, creator, and storyteller. This Tuesday at UU Connections, we'll explore those play personalities and share what we think ours is. I hope you'll join us. You can find a Zoom link on the church calendar on the website. So this month, we're invited to play, to think about play, to remember the ways that we've played and the joy that we found, to make connections between our early and even later play and the vocations that have become a part of our lives and livelihood, and to share play with one another. We may even go so far as to discern the ways that we might need to be saved by play, and then to let play do just that. I look forward to facilitating some of those opportunities and to hearing all the ways that you're connecting to beauty and the sacred through play this month. Blessed be, and amen.